You think you know Lionel Messi, right? The icon, the legend. But trust me, behind all those trophies and goals, there's this incredible story of failure, of pain, and a redemption arc so perfect, you'd think it came straight out of a movie. All right, so let's jump right in. But we're going to start at the absolute bottom, the lowest of the low. The year is 2011. And that quote you're seeing, that wasn't just some random angry fan on the internet. No, that was pretty much the feeling across all of Argentina. So yeah, our story doesn't kick off with some big win. It starts with him being completely rejected by his own people.
So how does that even happen? How does the greatest player in the world become public enemy number one in his own country? It's kind of mind-boggling, right? Well, to really get it, to understand just how huge his eventual comeback was, we've got to go back. We have to understand the struggle.
Okay, so first up, a nation's enemy. Because, like I said, to really feel the triumph, you first have to see just how dark things got for him.
I mean, the backlash from one single missed penalty was catastrophic. We're not just talking about bad press here. The media straight up called him a national enemy. But it went so much further than that. His own family was attacked on the street. His home was attacked. He was getting death threats sent right to his phone. It's insane. He literally became a villain in his own country, just overnight.
So how do you even come back from something like that? Well, to get the man, you've got to understand the boy he was. Which brings us to our next part, the boy who couldn't grow. And this might have been his biggest fight of all.
Okay, so get this. When he's just 11 years old, little kid, he gets diagnosed with something called growth hormone deficiency. Basically, his body just stopped producing what it needed to grow. Now, for any kid, that's a terrifying thing to hear. But for a kid whose whole life, whose whole dream was about becoming a pro athlete, man, that's basically a death sentence for your future career.
And the fix? Well, it wasn't easy. The treatment he needed cost $900 a month. Think about that. For his family, his dad was a factory worker, his mom a part-time cleaner, that might as well have been $1 million. It was just an impossible amount of money. So his dream, and honestly his health, it was all about to vanish before it ever even got started.
And then comes this moment that's become a total football legend. It wasn't some fancy contract in a boardroom. It was a promise, literally scribbled on a napkin. An FC Barcelona director saw this kid's unbelievable talent and, right then and there, promised to pay for all of his medical bills. That simple little napkin, it didn't just save his career, it pretty much saved his entire life.
So, let's move on to part 3, Alone Against the World. Because while the dream was now alive, it came at a huge, huge personal price.
You know, moving to Spain sounds like a dream, but it was anything but a fairy tale for him. I mean, just try to picture it. You're just a kid in a new country, and you have to give yourself painful injections in your own legs every single day. And while all this is happening, his grandmother, who is his #1 fan, she passes away. Then his mom and his siblings have to move back to Argentina. So suddenly, he's all alone with just his dad, can't speak the language, and has 0 friends. Talk about being isolated.
So, with all that struggle, how did he handle it? Well, this one story tells you everything you need to know. Before a big youth game, the other team literally locked him in the bathroom to stop him from playing. At halftime, his team is down 2-0. What does Messi do? He breaks the bathroom window, escapes, gets onto the field for the second half, and scores 3 goals. They win the game 3-2. I mean, come on, that's not just talent. That is pure, raw, I will not be stopped kind of will.
And it's that fueled everything that came next, which brings us to part 4, the making of a legend. This is the moment that quiet, lonely kid starts turning into an absolute global superstar.
The stats he started to put up were they're staggering. Let's just take 1 year, 2012. He scored 91 official goals. 91. That's a world record that, let's be honest, is probably never ever going to be broken. It's a level of dominance that's just hard to even wrap your head around.
And it wasn't just a flash in the pan. He won the Ballon d'Or, the award for the best player in the entire world, a record 7 times. 7! Year in and year out, he was just on a whole other level. But, and this is the big but of his whole career, here's where the conflict really lies. Look at this. On one side, you have his career with his club, Barcelona. It's just endless success, right? Champions Leagues, title after title. But then you look at the other side, for his country, Argentina, and it's basically empty. This was the one thing that haunted him. This is where all that criticism we talked about at the start came from.
And you know what? Through all of this, he stayed incredibly loyal to Barcelona. Other clubs were throwing insane amounts of money at him, but he never forgot who took a chance on him. He never forgot that napkin or the club that paid for the medicine that literally helped him grow. His loyalty ran deep, and it all went back to that one simple promise.
All right, and that leads us right into our final chapter, the part that ties this whole incredible story together. Part 5, the final redemption. This is where everything comes full circle.
Okay, check this out. Back in 2015, some random user on Twitter posts this prophecy. Now, you got to remember, at this point, Messi still had no major trophies with Argentina. So this tweet, it was just absurd. People mocked it, they laughed at it. It was seen as a complete joke, just some wild, impossible prediction.
So for 7 years, that tweet just sat there online. And then, December 18th, 2022, the impossible actually happened. Lionel Messi, at 35 years old, leads Argentina to win the whole thing. He lifts the FIFA World Cup trophy. The prophecy, against every single odd, it actually came true.
And there it is, the story full circle. The guy they called a national enemy back in 2011, the guy whose family got attacked, the guy they said didn't care about his country. He was the one. He was the one who finally brought home football's biggest prize. All that hate from 2011 was just silenced, forever, by the absolute joy of 2022.
So when you really look back on his entire journey, the illness, being all alone in a new country, the public humiliation, and then the ultimate redemption, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is this just a story about a kid with a lot of talent? Or is it a story about a boy who was told he would never grow and decided to respond by becoming the greatest player of all time?